The Shure MV7 microphone versus the Blue Yeti. Which one is the best USB microphone on the market? Well, we're going to compare them side by side today here in the studio. I've got my Blue Yeti set up. I've recorded about 500 videos on. I've got my Shure MV7 set up. You're going to be listening to the MV7 for now until I do a side-by-side audio comparison for you guys later in the video with processing on and with processing off, so you can hear the difference between these two microphones. We're also going to go over all of the accessories for these microphones that I recommend and I've tested, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both microphones, especially since, let's look at it right now, one of these microphones is significantly more expensive than the other, and that is the Shure MV7, this guy right here. It is the baby brother to the Shure SM7B microphone, which is arguably the #1 most popular podcasting microphone on the market. It looks a lot like it, and you're listening to it right now through USB only, but with processing on. And it's got a couple key features that I really enjoy, including the windscreen on the end of the microphone here that can help reduce pops. One con of this microphone, though, is that it doesn't completely reduce all of the pops. You may hear a few in this video with the mic being this close to my mouth. That's a downside. But this microphone also has really cool touch screen controls, if you will, on the top that allow you to adjust the mix in your headphones with you listening to your own audio on the microphone versus you listening to playback through a podcast, through Skype, through gameplay, etc. The Blue Yeti does not have that feature, which is really, really cool. Also, the Blue Yeti does not have a built-in windscreen. You have to buy a separate one. Another big difference between these microphones is that the Shure MV7 is upgradable to XLR. So I currently have it plugged into my mixer right now, XLR, and it has USB at the same time, which is really, really cool, allowing you to basically upgrade, if you will, the microphone later on with more racks, more mixers. If you decide to purchase something like a Rodecaster Pro like I have, or professional audio racks, you can hook up the Shure MV7 to those XLR setups, whereas the Blue Yeti in its current state is stuck as a USB microphone. The MV7 also has a headphone jack just like the Blue Yeti, and one of the other really cool features about the microphone is that it has companion software that I'm running right now. This companion software right behind me, that includes, I'll disappear, compression, your monitor mix, your gain, different EQ, having a limiter, all built-in free software that comes with the microphone, whereas the Blue Yeti does not have any such software whatsoever. Let's talk accessories for the Shure MV7. By the way, all the products I'm talking about in this video, there's affiliate links in the description below. This is not sponsored content at all. I bought every piece of equipment with my own money that you're seeing today. It also, you're going to want to consider a really nice stand for the Shure MV7 if you decide to purchase this mic. I like this gator stand you're losing right here because it has an integrated XLR cable inside of the stand for a nice clean look, and you can run the USB cable down it as well with Velcros, which is what I'm doing here in the studio. I really like it. It's the perfect stand for this mic because you want this stand and this mic to be upgradable to USB and XLR later on, which is really great. Love this stand. I'm using it right now. One of my favorites of all the stands I own. There's also a shock mount that I have in the mail I have yet to test that you need for this microphone, the Shure MV7, because listen to this. I'm knocking on my desk right now. Do you hear that? Let me knock on the other part of my desk. You hear that? You can hear a little bit of the vibration through the boom arm, and so without a shock mount, you're really going to hear those vibrations, the clickety-clacks on your keyboard, as well as with your mouse, or if you accidentally bump the stand, you're going to want a shock mount to mitigate that. Links below to all of those products related to this particular microphone. But let's talk about the Blue Yeti itself. As you can see, it's about $100 cheaper than the MV7, and it comes with a table stand. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to you listening to the Blue Yeti while I talk about the Blue Yeti, and we're going to do a comparison later. Here we go. Now you're listening to the Blue Yeti while I'm talking about it. But one thing that's really nice about it versus the MV7 is it comes with the great little table stand built in. It's heavy duty. It's metal. It's great. So you can drop it on a table anywhere, use it for meetings. It's really easy, really noob friendly. The front of the microphone also has a volume knob on it, which allows you to turn up your headphone volume. But what it doesn't allow you to do with the Blue Yeti is change your monitor mix. So you can't mix between how much of yourself you hear versus everyone else. It just turns up the master volume. It also has an onboard mute button, physical, very loud mute button on it. I'm going to press it right now. Did you hear it go pop when I pressed it? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It's kind of loud. I like the mute button on the MV7 better because it's just a little touch button, not a big, loud, clanky mute button. One other thing that you should know about the Blue Yeti is that it has different pickup patterns. The MV7 does not have different pickup patterns, but I don't consider this to be a great feature. A reason is you're going to use for the Blue Yeti the cardioid pickup pattern 99% of the time, and when you're talking to it relatively close like I am, these other pickup patterns are only useful if you want to put the Blue Yeti in the middle of a conference table or a theater to pick up the entire room. With Omni mode, which is the circle button right here, the other modes aren't that useful, but the Blue Yeti is sensitive enough to pick up an entire room. One other thing I like about the Blue Yeti is that the microphone jack is on the bottom versus many other USB mics, and as you can see, there is no XLR jack on the base Blue Yeti model. It is mountable to damn near every stand because it's so popular. I've got it on a toner stand right now. You could put it on almost any stand you want. That's up to you. And also, the Blue Yeti has a physical volume knob. So if you prefer physical volume knobs versus kind of touchscreeny type of volume knobs, then the Blue Yeti gain knob may be more interesting to you than what the MV7 has to offer. In terms of accessories that you're going to want for your Blue Yeti, you're definitely going to want the windscreen that I have on it right now, rather than having a pop filter, in my opinion. This windscreen that I'm going to recommend, I'll show you on the screen right now, does the job for about 90% of those plosives or more. If you have the mic close to your mouth, pop that right over the end, and then you don't have this giant metal plate over your face obstructing you during your content. You really don't want that. So this windscreen is relatively cheap, link below if you want to pick that up. And I also recommend if you want to get a really nice stand, there's an official Blue stand. I've got a link below to the official Blue stand. It's about $100-ish, something like that. It's a nice clean stand you can mount the microphone to, and there's also a shock mount that you're going to want for it. You're listening to the Blue Yeti right now. Do you hear these knocks? Right? You probably hear the vibration. Let me knock on the other part of the desk over here. Do you hear vibrations? That's on the other part of my desk over here. You probably heard of the vibration part of that. You're probably going to want a shock mount for the Blue Yeti if you plan on moving around, clicking, keyboarding, especially for those of you out there that are gamers. All right, those are the features. Those are the pros and cons. I'd say overall, in terms of these two microphones, the MV7 is going to have a tighter sound and is going to have a more isolated dynamic mic sound by you being closer to the mic, whereas the Yeti is going to pick up the entire room. Let me just show you what I mean by that. So right now, the Yeti, I'm relatively close to it. And this is with processing on. I'm going to move a little bit further away. This is the recording test. And this is the way the Yeti sounds with processing on, a little bit further away. It's very clear, it's very bright. Okay, let me go ahead and turn the processing off on this microphone so you can hear the way the Yeti sounds with raw, no processing. Sound suppression, compressor, and limiter off. You might hear room noise right now in the room with the Yeti. I have a fan going over here and another one here. This is the Blue Yeti with no processing whatsoever. Blue Yeti with no processing, and then I'm going to turn on the processing again. This is free processing in OBS, noise suppression, compressor, and limiter. I think that makes the Blue Yeti sound a lot tighter. Let's go ahead and compare the Blue Yeti with processing on. I've been talking into it for a while. Let's now compare that to the MV7 with processing on. Do you hear the difference between these two microphones? The processing that you're hearing on the MV7 is not only the processing that I have going in OBS, but it's also the processing from the software that it comes with the MV7. And so the MV7 software, I think, does a great job processing the audio. This is the MV7 fully processed audio. Now let's turn off the processing for the MV7 so you can hear the way it sounds without processing on. Noise suppression, compressor, and limiter are now gone. And then what we're going to do over here is we're going to turn off all of the processing here and just do the near natural sound through the MV7 software. Right back here, I'm turning off the settings I just had, and here is the way the MV7 sounds without processing on. Now I'm going to turn back on all of the maximum processing I had just a moment ago. There you go. There's the way it sounds with the maximum processing. Then here's noise suppression, compressor, and limiter. And now this is the way the MV7 sounds with processing. Once again, let's go back and forth between the two microphones with a very common process sound that you're probably going to want to run all the time. This is the Shure MV7, and this is the Blue Yeti with basic processing going on both microphones. Once again, this is the Blue Yeti you're listening to right now. Now we're going to switch over to the MV7. I think that the MV7 has a fuller sound and a higher quality sound. You guys can make your own decision, but I think it sounds better than the Blue Yeti overall. It is more expensive. It also does a better job of isolating out room noise, in my opinion, but you guys can make your own decision. Switching back to the Blue Yeti now so you can decide which one you like. I like both of these microphone sounds because they're both very clear. They both have good high range and good mid-high range, but neither one has a really good bass range. And so that's one of the disadvantages of these two microphones, is that the bass range isn't really big and boomy. Personally, I like a big boomy bass range, but that's up to you guys as to which one you think is more interesting. Once again, the MV7 fully processed audio. This is all free processing you're listening to right now. You can do live with any recording. And then here is the Blue Yeti one last time. Links in the description below to both of these microphones. I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison. I think that the Blue Yeti is the best low-tier USB microphone for the money on the market right now, and I think that the MV7 has created a new category of mid-tier USB microphone that allows you to go into endgame with the XLR side of things, and I think it's the best mid-tier microphone I own and that I have tested. You guys make your own decision based on what you heard, and best of luck to you. Happy shopping. Affiliate links in the description below if you want to pick up any of the gear I talked about in this video. Adios, creators.